The Lake of Kalandra is, unfortunately, pretty lacking on lore, but it's one of the coolest visual implementations of the League mechanic that I've seen for a long time. Sometimes it feels like the most visually ambitious mechanics are the ones that end up falling a bit short. The last time I remember something being incredibly visually ambitious was back with Synthesis, and we all know how that turned out, unfortunately. Now, visuals aside, the actual mechanics of how the lake works are also quite interesting. It reminds me quite a bit of Synthesis, while also reminding me a bit of League Stones from Legacy League. I know most people watching probably weren't around back then, so to quickly explain, League Stones were the precursor to Scarabs. You'd get these League Stones that dropped, which you could roll with various mods. After you rolled it, you'd put it in your map device, and it would put that content on your map. So if you wanted to run Breach on every map, then maybe you'd put in a Breach League Stone. Because they were rollable, and therefore craftable, there were a lot of interesting combinations. And the Lake of Kalandra is a somewhat simplified system of that. But at the same time, it also feels like a much more refined version of what we got with Synthesis, where you got a bunch of random reward tiles and random pathing pieces, but couldn't put them together very well. Lakes are relatively easy to put together, but putting something together easily doesn't mean you're putting it together correctly, as anyone who has ever attempted to assemble anything from IKEA probably knows. It goes together really easily the first time when you ignore the instructions, and just gets infinitely harder from there. So, to start off with, the basic. Lake of Kalandra offers you a blank tablet. There are a series of water tiles and actual tiles. You can put various things on the actual tiles. These things take the form of monsters or league mechanics. You will spawn at the entrance, and the deeper you go, the number of squares consecutively away from the entrance, the more dangerous and also the more rewarding the things you will find. Now, as you proceed through the lake, you'll be able to unlock 3 options to influence the results. Banish an option, which typically I use on something that I just don't want to run, like low-tier chaos monsters. This will banish all options of that type, meaning you can banish something common that you dislike and not have to deal with it while focusing on rarer and more valuable things. You can also skip a choice, which is quite good when you don't really like anything being offered, but there's nothing else you can do right now. Or to fish for something like a tile swap, which might be useful and might actually save a bad tablet, making it much better. Or possibly to do something like fish for a tile swap because you need to move the entrance. And then finally, reroll the options. This is by far the safest thing since it doesn't count as a skip, so your overall progression isn't slowed down. But you do get new choices, and if you banish 2 choices, then immediately refresh, you'll be given 3 new options. So that's the very basics of how you build a tablet, but how does that tablet function? You'll be offered different elemental reflection types. These contain monsters that deal fire, cold, lightning, chaos, or physical damage, respectively. There are also rarer and much more rewarding versions. These will contain either exiles or bosses with that theme. The basic tiles honestly aren't terrible, but nothing to get excited about. On the other hand, while the exile and boss tiles can be very rippy, especially at higher difficulties, they can also be very rewarding. They offer things like gem rewards, unique rewards, and scarab rewards. In addition to this, there are also several league mechanics the Lake of Kalandra can offer you. This includes a Beyond tile, which will of course give you tainted currency. Be careful when putting this one too late in the chain, because it does carry significant risk. You can also get things like Voltaxic Sulfite, Harbingers, Essences, Strongboxes, Legions, or Breaches. There's usually a normal and a rare version. So for example, there's a normal version that just contains a Legion, or there's a rare version that contains a Legion that has additional Sergeants. There's a normal version that contains multiple Strongboxes. There's a rare version, which causes strongboxes to be openable again, and contains rare strongbox types such as Divination, Cartographers, and Arcanists. In general, you want to put more of your league mechanics closer to the start of a map. This is because they don't scale incredibly well with distance the way the chests do. Whereas you want to put your exiles and boss tiles as close to the end as possible, thus maximizing the rewards. There are also 2 very special rewards unique to the Lake of Kalandra that should always be placed as deep as you can into the field. These are the Reflection of Kalandra, which I'll get into a little bit more later. The Reflection of Paradise offers you 1000% EXP in exchange for the monsters dropping no loot. This is a great way to power level and therefore quite valuable. These should always be placed as late in the chain as possible. So what do I mean by the chain? Well, let's just use a visual example here. You start counting from the entrance, and then you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Each contiguous tile contributes to the chain, ending as far away as possible from the entrance. Keep in mind, it will try to draw the shortest path though, so if you try to make a big circle, no, you don't go all the way around and end at the entrance tile, you go all the way around and end at the halfway mark from 2 different sides. The deeper a tile is, the more rewarding it is. Also, the deeper a tile is, the more dangerous it is. Keep this in mind and use it to min-max your rewards. Now, I do want to talk about the reflection of Kalandra and the reflecting mystic grants. But before I do, a quick reminder that if you're enjoying the video or you found it helpful, maybe now you know better how to construct a tablet for your lake, then be sure to leave a like and share it with a friend who might be struggling. For more content, get subscribed, as I'm going to be talking about my build in an upcoming video. Or if you want to see something else right now, check out my second channel, 10 Gaming Thoughts, where I recently went over the gaming news, including the league launch and an event that I might be taking part in the near future. Before I get back to the video, a special thanks to all of my patrons and channel members for the continued support. But for now, what is a reflecting mist? Well, unfortunately, a reflecting mist or ethereal mist are 2 different mechanics tied to the Lake of Kalandra, and I have a really bad habit of crossing them in my mind, so I apologize if I misspeak and call one by the wrong thing. It's probably happened once already in this video. A reflecting mist gives you an option for 2 different mirrored items. The one on the left will be the inverse modwise of the one on the right, so every mod that is positive on the left will be negative on the right. This seems to be rolled randomly though, so you could have 4 positive and 4 negative, or 2 positive, 2 negative, and any combination in between. An ethereal mist lets you supply your own item and take the gamble. However, the magnitude of the positivity and negativity is based off of the depth, so if you're ever offered an ethereal mist, make sure to put it as deep as possible, preferably 10 plus tiles deep, otherwise it's just not going to be that valuable. When it comes to reflecting mists, unfortunately, you don't really get to know where they show up. Kalandra will just randomly appear and tell you, hey, you got some loot. A lot of the time it's going to be garbage, but occasionally you'll find some really nice items. Personally, I'd like to see more reflecting and ethereal mists added. I mean, this is kind of the whole point of a league. We want to corrupt our stuff, destroy items. I want to try to get a +3 Chaos Gems neck. Does that mean there's a good chance I'll get a -3 Chaos Gems neck? Yes, absolutely. And if that happens, I'd have to buy a new item. I want to try to get a +3 Chaos Gems 75% dot multi necklace. However, there's an equal chance that I end up with -3 +75 dot multi or +3 -75% dot multi. And if that happens, I'd be out a fairly valuable amulet. Usually, it's beneficial to the economy when players are encouraged to destroy their items. And while yes, you can make some really nice stuff, the odds are you're not going to hit all positives. So I kind of wish that these were far more common. I'd love to see more reflecting mists offering better loot, maybe 2 or 3 per mirror instead of the one we get currently. And I'd like to see ethereal mists far more often, instead of having seen literally 0 all league, except for a couple times where I threw junk amulets into someone else's service. I'd like to have found a few by now. I don't exactly know how many lakes I've completed, but at this point it feels a bit like hunting for Trial Master in Ultimatum. People swear it's real, and I know it's real because I can see it happen to other people, but it feels disappointing because it isn't happening to me. So as a quick TLDR guide for Lake of Kalandra. At the start, banish up to 3 of the basic options. Use all of your skips and rerolls when applicable to get rid of bad choices. What you are hunting for is league-specific mechanics that you find valuable, or if you just want as much currency as possible, go for the rarer Exile and Boss tiles, since these will have significantly better rewards. You'll see the little 3 and 4 divots on the side that denote them in comparison to a normal tile. It will also specify rogue exiles or powerful enemies as opposed to regular enemies. Always make your paths as long as possible. You want it to snake to the end, and you don't want it to overlap with itself because at that point that shortens the path by giving alternative routes. Finally, when running the lake, remember, the deeper it is, the more dangerous it is, but the deeper it is, the more rewarding. Proceed with a bit of caution and try to not bite off more than you can chew. Of course, as a quick disclaimer, this is subject to change. The lake could see another patch, and things might work a little bit differently by the time you find this video, as opposed to when it's released. But if it's only a minor one, then you can assume things are working mostly as I explained them. For now though, I only have one question. What's the best item that you've gotten from a reflecting mist? The amulet that you see on screen now is probably the best thing I've found. In any other league, it would be completely absurd to get 200 flat strength on an amulet. In this league, somehow, it feels pretty normal. But let me know some of your best creations down in the comments below. A special thanks to my patrons and YouTube channel members. Your support helps keep me independent and allows me to turn down things like sketchy mobile game sponsorships. You can do so for as low as $1 a month over on Patreon, or if you want to support me completely for free, then you can join the community by hopping into my Discord, link below. If you want more content, check out my second channel, 10 Gaming Thoughts. It's a place that I use to review games, ramble my way through video essays, and a lot more. Or of course, you can just click the suggested video in the card right now. I hope you learned something today, and maybe I'll see you again sometime soon.